Jack Blackwell was born in his childhood home in Birmingham, Alabama, nearly 101 years ago on September 29, 1920, to Pauline and Cicero Blackwell. He grew up in Birmingham along with his two older brothers and a younger sister. Years later, while Jack was attending Sewanee, the University of the South, our nation entered World War II. He joined the U.S. Navy and served time in the Pacific Theater. While leaving home after a 30-day leave, as fortune would have it, Jack was on the platform at the train station where he ran into Mr. and Mrs. Kirkman O'Neill.
And Mr. and Mrs. O'Neill were on the same platform with Libby, and they were sending her off to college somewhere. And we just got into a conversation, and Mr. O'Neill asked where I was going, and I told him I didn't have any idea until I got my orders in New Orleans. And he said, well, if you get to Pearl Harbor, look up Emmett. He's just been transferred there recently from Charleston Navy Yard. And I told him that I would and didn't have any idea that it would materialize. Well, lo and behold, I was sent right back to Pearl Harbor. And having been there a couple of times, I knew the routine. And when I finally got on a ship in San Francisco that took me to Pearl Harbor, I knew that the minute that the ship docked, that I was going to the officers' club for a beer and a hamburger. I walked into the officers' club, and it was in the morning, and I didn't see but just a few people around. And sitting by himself, I saw a pair of hands and a pair of legs, and the Birmingham Age Herald, which was the morning paper. And I just took a shot at it, and I walked over to him, and I said, good morning, Emmett. And he pulled the paper down. We hadn't seen each other not only several years. He pulled the paper down and said, oh, hi, Jack. How are you? So that started our relationship back. Every time my ship would get into Pearl Harbor, I would look up Emmett, and he would know that I was there, one way or the other.
Jack was the captain of a landing ship medium, an LSM. Emmett's job was to oversee repairs and maintenance on ships. VJ Day was in August 1945, and after a stint overseeing an island cleanup unit, Jack was ready to head home and was given very short notice when that time came. With only $2 cash in his pocket, he borrowed some money from Emmett to help him on his way. As soon as he got back to Birmingham, he gave Kirkman a check to repay Emmett. 14 million men were now coming home to the U.S., transitioning back to civilian life and re-entering the workforce. Jack went to work for his father at Moore Handley Hardware Company in Birmingham. In 1947, he got a call from Emmett.
One day I had a call from Emmett that he and his father would like to talk to me. And so we met at Mr. Kirkman O'Neill's house. And as it turned out, it was kind of an informal interview, but I was very definitely intrigued by the fact that this was a family business, the integrity of the company and its owners. And I subsequently went to work for them. I ended up spending 43 years there. I was impressed initially with the fact that I started in the plant itself. That to me was just invaluable experience for someone that hardly knew a beam from an angle. And I know that when I got into management, we in the service center end of the business continued that practice. Whether or not it exists today, I have no idea, of course. So that's how I ended up with what is now O'Neill Steel.
In the late 1950s, The company expanded its service center business to Jackson, Mississippi, Atlanta, Georgia, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. Jack became the manager of the company's service center division. Jack began to see that there was a large amount of business in Florida, but geographically, it was getting difficult to serve customers so far away from Birmingham. Other steel companies were beginning to pop up in the area, and O'Neill was beginning to lose business. He ultimately decided that Jacksonville was the ideal place to start a Florida location. This plan proved to put Jack in a somewhat difficult position.
I talked to Emmett. He was my immediate boss, and he became very enthused about the possibility and told me to proceed. And I don't know how long it was after that, but I set certain wheels into motion and so forth. And Mr. Kirkman O'Neill came into my office one day, and you always knew it was going to be a serious conversation when he said, "Close the door." So anyway, with the door closed, he told me that neither he nor Mrs. O'Neill wanted to expand any further, and that I should cease and desist. Well, of course, this put me onto a rock and a hard spot. And Emmett is asking me what progress I'm making, and I'm dancing around the question of, and without getting anywhere. And finally just reached the point where I asked for an audience with the two of them. And we met in Mr. Kirkman O'Neill's office, and I laid out the situation as I saw it. And I said, "Emmett is constantly asking me what progress I'm making, and you, Mr. O'Neill, are telling me to cease and desist. I need a decision." And that's when Emmett spoke up and said, "Proceed." Boy, I'm out of that office like I was shot out of a gun. And the funny part about it is that if memory serves me right, that Emmett was the one that put up the funds initially for the Jacksonville operation. And we had, for many years, we had a very tremendous business there.
Jack says that the O'Neill family always operated with integrity, and he always had freedom to express his views. He stated that whether you were in agreement with management or not, your opinion was always heard and considered. Emmett never rejected any recommendations that came from Jack, and Jack always felt valued. While visiting Jacksonville, Emmett and Jack shared a hotel room, and one night they stayed up until dawn thinking of new ideas for the company. This exemplified the spirit of their relationship.
It's hard to believe that I've been away from O'Neill since 1990, 29 years. And for 5 years prior to that, I had stepped down from the presidency, but I had a very fancy title entitled Vice President of Special Projects, reporting to the chairman. Well, as far as the company becoming 100 years old, it just stands to reason. Here again, it's a privately owned company. What a rarity this day and time. And you now have the third generation that is just as committed as Mr. Kirkman O'Neill was when he started that business. I think this says that Kraft O'Neill today is just as enthused, if not more so, in perpetuating the O'Neill name. 100 years. I have been asked that question about the integrity and business practices of the O'Neill family. I think the best way that I can answer that is that There were occasions during my 43 years when I had the opportunity to go to other service centers. I just couldn't leave O'Neill. I felt like it was my company. I've never known of any company that I was associated with that had such deep concern for its employees and the deep integrity of the company. It was a privilege.